It's the time of year when the world shares in seasonal festivities with family, friends, loved ones. And it's also a time when people generally find a bit of generosity in their hearts to help and reach out to their neighbours in need. The coronavirus pandemic this year has taken a toll on livelihoods across the world, and the impact has been especially devastating for socially vulnerable members of society, particularly children. Children already affected by poverty, hunger, homelessness, disaster and political turmoil have seen their situation turn from bad to worse. We discuss how those children in need are in more need than ever and how we can do our part in this time of the year. I'm joined today by Minji Kang, who is the Director of Strategy Department at Save the Children Korea. We also welcome Grace Lee, who is the Executive Director of GUM, a charity that provides access to education for orphan children in South Korea. She's joining us all the way from Georgia in the United States. It's lovely to have you both on the show. Thank you. And well, let's go straight into the questions. Now, Minji, you're with Save the Children Korea. Now, what impact has the COVID-19 outbreak had on the lives of millions of children around the world who are already being hit very badly from hunger, poverty, homelessness and disasters? And which children have been the worst affected throughout this pandemic?
Well, there are 2.3 billion children in the world. Throughout this pandemic period, 99% of all children in the world have been impacted in a way or another. So more than 1 billion children throughout during their school years, they have faced their learning loss because of school closures, and their right to play and their right to socialize with their friends and their neighborhood have been restricted. But as you mentioned in your question, the most marginalized children and the most deprived children who are living in the least developed countries, and children with disabilities, and children living in the refugee camps who had been already deprived of their basic rights even before the pandemic, they have been hit the hardest. So we are concerned that more than 50 million children may not be able to go back to school even after the school opens. And in the situation that UN estimates that more than 1 million children will be pushed into severe poverty now. Those children without enough social safety net would be they have to fight for their survivor, and some of the adolescent girls, they may have to send back to work, or they would be forced into early marriage, which is really concerning.
Right, so there are very few links they had to opportunities for socio-economic growth and development. It's just being really worsened by this pandemic, just being cut off these opportunities. It's very concerning. And also, Minji, there were also reports of domestic violence as well as children stay at home under lockdown. What kind of new dangers, or rather new trends, I suppose, unfortunate trends, are these children facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, let me talk about some situation in Korea. In our society before the pandemic, some of the institutions like schools and child care centers in the community, they have played a role for child protection and child care. But because of the closures, these facilities have closed after the pandemic. Children have to stay all at home. And in those households where both children have to work outside without proper child carer at home, they have to spend all their time alone. So some of the incidents, I think you guys have seen the news that young brothers, they have been burned while they had to boil the noodles, when their mother was out for work. So it's a tragic incident. And also some of the children have been locked at home without childcare. They are exposed quite a lot to digital space, virtual space. So they spend a lot of time in the digital space without proper care by adults. So they are exposed to so many kinds of new dangers, new sexual exploitation and crimes. So, so it's a new type of crisis for children's rights.
So during these trying times, it's so important, so essential that children get the care they need, the guidance they need. But without parents or guardians, it's incredibly difficult. And Grace, now let's bring you into the conversation. Now, focusing on the South Korean context, you're focusing on children in children's homes. How did you get started as an organisation, and what kind of support are you giving to children who don't have their parents around?
Yes, so GUM stands for and means dream in Korean, and it got started by a group of American Fulbright English teachers that just wanted to give back to the orphanage community in South Korea. And so they got together, they raised $2,000 and provided Christmas gifts for a children's home that we still support today. And 3 years later, these same volunteers came together and founded GUM in 2007. The work that we do specifically while we are a US-based nonprofit organization is that we help enrich the lives of the children in Korea through outreach programs, whether it's having them go to soccer, arts and crafts camps, or providing scholarships for preschool and college students to further their dreams so that they have access to an education. For instance, for students that grow up in the children's home, the government does not provide them funding to attend preschool until they're 4 years old, but most Korean children are attending as young as 2. So that's a huge 2-year educational gap when the child is still developing so much in their toddler ages. And so we help just provide an opportunity for the children to thrive and grow, and just to continue enriching their lives any way that we can, because these children deserve all the love in the world.
And they certainly do. And well, the pandemic has been trying for organisations like yourself, and well, it's been incredibly hard for global efforts to really improve the lives of children and their security, the care they need, their education. So, Minji, how have you adapted and responded to the COVID-19 crisis in Korea and also around the world?
Yeah, in Korea, thanks to such a generous support from our givers and from a lot of corporates and celebrities and social influence to support children, we ever since the outbreak in February, we have distributed personal protection kits and some hygiene kits and some of the urgent care kits to those children who are in need. And especially in February in Daegu, Gyeongbuk area was quite locked down because of the fear in the very early stage of pandemic, and you know there was not enough those protection kits. So we provided all those urgent kits to those households, and also even and after that, throughout the year, for those households in need, we have provided cash grants and some of the distance learning equipment backed up by corporate giving. So some of the PC and tablets and printers, you know, those have been distributed for children to be able to continue their learning in their home.
Now, Grace, how has COVID-19 affected your work in South Korea in supporting children in children's homes?
Yeah, the children have definitely been impacted the most, I believe, out of anyone in Korea. So it started off as a 7-week mandatory lockdown where the children were not allowed to leave the children's home unless for school or for emergencies. And that 7-week lockdown has been extended for several months, and it's been like that since February. So the children have not been able to leave the premises except for school and the emergencies. And so for us, we are very concerned with their social and emotional well-being, but we have been so blessed and amazed with the support of our donors and friends all across the world. For instance, we needed the children's home had an immediate need of new technology. So when distance learning was becoming the new thing, you had 8 children sharing 3 computers from elementary to high school. So that's a lot of assignments with the limited resources. So we were able to raise $14,000 in 11 days to
Wow.
provide 22 laptops and desktop computers so that 200 children could feel academically supported during the pandemic.
And that's been a great concern, really, that digital divide that's happening. And everyone's been very concerned that these children are going to fall even further behind. But it's very encouraging to hear that you've been seeing small successes in that regard and really helping children here in South Korea. And well, Minji, now during this Christmas season, of course, it's a time to be generous as well and make donations to people in need, especially children in need. But with an even greater need to fill this year, how has COVID-19 affected your volunteering and fundraising efforts?
Save the Children's founder Arirang Jeb once said, "People are not ungenerous; they are just busy." She had said that in order to motivate fundraisers in tough times. This year, we could make sure that was the right statement. Thanks to so many generous support from our givers, we could provide a lot of programs to children in need. But the economic situation is not good now, and there are so many uncertainties, which is threatening the children's lives. And this pandemic and disaster has always disproportionately affected children's lives in the most needy situations. So we, even though we have been supported very generously this year, so we could provide programs enough, but still there are so many children out there who are in danger of high risk. And we believe it's gonna be worsened next year because of the time gap. So we strongly ask your support continuously next year to continue our work.
And Grace, well, of course, the world is going through this pandemic and this terrible economic crisis that Minji just mentioned as well. But we do still try and hold on to that hope, especially during Christmas time. And well, how have you been supporting children during this holiday season?
Yeah, Christmas time for us is so special. It's the busiest and the best time because for the children, we're able to provide them gifts and meals. This year, it looks a little bit different because we are not there in person. We usually have our volunteers providing a lot of fun activities for the children, but COVID won't run on our parade. So we are going to be providing Christmas gifts to 200 children at 3 children's homes. And once again, just the generosity of our supporters on Giving Tuesday, which is the biggest fundraising day for us and the Global Day of Generosity. Last year, we raised about $7,000, and this year, we raised $13,000 in that one day. And that funds all of our Christmas activities, from the meals to the gifts to the children making gingerbread houses with their brothers and sisters. And to what's really special this year in particular is that we support a children's home that have toddlers, youth, and young adults that serve children with cognitive and physical challenges. In the past, we've only been able to provide gifts for about 25 of the children because we were taking them off-site to a restaurant. But this year, for the first time, we are providing gifts to all 143 children. And on Giving Tuesday, all of our friends and supporters funded all of the 200 gifts. So we have just been overwhelmed with the support. We thank our donors so much, from BTS1 in the Army to those here in Georgia, all across the United States, and just supporting from all across the world. So it's been beautiful to see, despite a global pandemic, the heart, just like Minji talked about, the hearts of people have not lessened, is that they are giving in more numbers. And so it's just an opportunity to share our story and to share our mission and to continue showing the world and our society that these children need our support.
Well, that was Min Kang, the Director of Strategy Department at Save the Children Korea, and Grace Lee, Executive Director of GOM, joining us from Georgia, the US. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you, Soo-young. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you as always for watching, and have a very Merry Christmas.